Adrian Younge is an American composer, arranger and producer, looking back in time in order to move music forward. Adrian focuses on production techniques of the late 60s and early 70s, recording music in his fully analogue studio in Los Angeles. You're tuned in to Roots to Grooves.
to Roots to Grooves with me, Jay Purcell, and
me, Jesse Quigley.
Hey,
What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Yo, good to be here. Seattle, Washington, Signl Radio.
Yeah. We're back here again.
Jay, who are we talking about?
Adrian Younge.
Oh, yes. Yes. Adrian Younge.
A composer, arranger, music producer, multi-instrumentalist based out of Los Angeles, USA.
A lot of stuff. I don't know if we'll have time to get to all of the stuff this guy's created. He's on soundtracks. Mm-hmm. His music is hip hop, it's soul, retro, funk, jazz, psychedelia.
Yeah.
All kind of mix match on many different projects, working with many different prolific artists.
Yeah. Right now he's very prolific. If you haven't heard of him, I think probably the most sort of mainstream interaction that most people might have come across with him without knowing it is the soundtrack for Luke Cage, which is the Marvel series on Netflix.
Oh, I didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
Nice.
He did the music for all of that, those first two seasons. And I'm foreshadowing again because we'll get into how that came to be a little bit later. But Adrian Younge, he's like a solo artist,
producer, multi-instrumentalist, recording engineer, entrepreneur,
lawyer. He's an attorney.
Yeah,
he's an entertainment attorney as well.
He's a law professor.
He's a law professor as well. Yeah, teaches people.
He got his degree from American College of Law.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's smart. You know, he knows what he's doing. He has his head in the game.
This guy's real smart. And to get back to the very beginning, his family is from the Caribbean originally, and he grew up in LA, and LA is where he calls home still to this day. And he first got into music. He said his parents weren't musical, but he always heard music growing up. It was always a thing, you know.
He always had a little bit of interest in it, for sure.
Yeah, and back in that time, it was stuff like Prince and Michael Jackson and Run DMC. He said his parents also played a lot of reggae in the house,
right,
as well.
I think
being Caribbean.
I think I remember a story I heard him say. He was in a record shop. It was like the first time he and his brother went to buy a record, and I think his little brother maybe, bought a Prince album. I don't know if you know which album it was.
No, I don't know.
I don't remember, but his little brother bought a Prince album, and then he got the Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Okay.
And that was, I think, the first album that he bought. So I think he said he's always been a little more partial to Michael Jackson as opposed to Prince for that reason.
Yeah.
But respects both artists.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, this guy's some of his influences: Portishead. I think that's how you say it. Morricone. I don't know that guy's first name.
And Ennio Morricone.
Yeah, I didn't even put it because I didn't want to say it. I don't know how to say it.
Soundtrack composer for a lot of Western movies. A lot of those old.
There you go.
Clint Eastwood movies. And stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. Air, the band Air, another influence. DJ Premier. Bilal, who he's worked with.
Yeah. Ali
Ali Shaheed from Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah, who he's also collaborated with.
Yeah.
And Ali, I can't say his whole name. The guy from Tribe Called Quest. And Raphael Sadiq as well.
Yeah, nice. Who's another cool artist that I'd love to talk about in the future.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's dope.
I didn't realize until researching for Adrian Younge that Raphael Sadiq used to be in a group called Tony, which I looked at their Wikipedia page briefly, just for a second, and they look like a 90s R&B boy band. So that's something to get into at another point. But
sure. I mean, this he's a killer. He's won 2 Grammys.
Yeah.
Maybe more as far as I know, but he won a Grammy in 2002 for Hey Baby, his track Hey Baby, for best pop performance by a duo or group with vocal. And in 2003, Underneath It All, for the same best pop performance by duo or group with vocal. So he's won some Grammys. He's worked with a lot of great artists. So he's at a high level of work ethic.
Yeah. So I would say like his musical style and everything that he does right now is very old school sounding. It sounds like legit funk and soul out of the era back in the late 60s.
Not only does it sound like it, but it truly is.
It truly is.
And I think that's one of his main,
Yeah.
his kind of mainstay of where he's coming from for what he wants to create is he's, like he said himself, he looks backward to move forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's super cool. I mean, we can get right into it. It's amazing to me. His studio is fully analog.
Yeah.
He has no computer in his studio.
Yeah. And you love that, right? Because you hate computers.
I hate computers, so I'm all about this guy. Not that I know how to use that kind of technology.
Yeah, that's true.
Also,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it's a little bit more, kind of hands-on, and
Yeah.
you get what you got when you get it,
Yeah.
as opposed to where do I save this? How do I? Does it have to be a WAV file or a MP3 or
How do I export this from the tape machine?
That's
Yeah, no.
oh man, it's rough, but I mean amazing.
Yeah.
So this guy, I mean, he's not. He wants to. He's influenced by particularly, I think, music from 1968 to 1973 or so.
Yeah, he specifically says that. He said that more than once.
Right.
Specifically those years.
Which is cool. Like the latter part of the 1960s kind of psychedelia and well, I don't know, the early influences of where hip hop is today.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the hip hop artists are taking samples and breaks from those particular years.
Yeah. And it's cool to know because I've been like really just influenced by the similar types of sounds that Adrian is into, but unknowingly and unwittingly, like basically through other artists that have sampled from that era.
Yeah.
And I think he's done his deep research and he's identified those years, 1968 to 1973.
Like, that's my jam.
That's the era of when all of these, he said, when the recording equipment was at its best, analog best, and also when like a lot of people were starting to experiment more with like psychedelia, different textures, stuff like that, and creating new soundscapes that would go on to like influence other music after those years, kind of thing.
Yeah. So super cool how he's looking back. I mean, we could start where, I guess in the 90s, he started, he was in a band.
Yeah.
And I didn't find out too much about the band, but it was in the 90s and it was, I don't know, I think they were using sampling and live instrumentation.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't find anything about that. Yeah.
I didn't either. I couldn't even find the name of it.
Yeah. All I know is that he was super young, late sort of early teenage years.
Yeah.
Probably around 16 years old or something like that. And even at that time, he was really serious about music himself. And he said that his band split up because he said they all just like to smoke weed all the time. And they were just like, and he was like, yeah, you come into like the studio, you come to practice, we can do some. And they were like, yeah, I just gotta meet my weed dealer and stuff like that. and he was like, okay, I'm done. Like, he was just like, he wanted to, I think from that on, like really try and figure out how he could make music himself so he didn't have to rely on other people kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I remember you specifically telling me when we were having some discussion off air, how it's important to maintain your own responsibility and not organize yourself in your creative process to where you're not dependent on other people and not putting any responsibility on others for yourself to progress.
Yeah.
And he took that on himself.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that was kind of the end of that band. And he was like, I need to do this myself. He literally started to teach himself how to play these different instruments so that he could create it himself and create what he wanted to create by himself.
Yeah. So, and like to what you were saying about that, I've always believed that, I've witnessed people throughout my life where they're always waiting for someone else and before they can move forward. And that was something that I just, from very early on and from a young age, realizing and witnessing that, you just, it's not a good way to be in for anything in life.
Right. Yeah.
You've always got to be able to move forward yourself. And, he realized that. And I think so what happened with with that is his very first foray into music was sampling as well, like so many of the other artists we've talked about. And that came out of him listening to artists like Wu-Tang Clan, RZA. He even mentioned DJ Shadow as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so he started with an MPC as well. I have one of these as well. The MPC, the famous MPC.
We got to bring it in, get it on camera one of these days.
You should bring it in, yeah, for sure. He had that. He also had a 8-track tape machine. Porter Studio, Tescan Porter Studio. And he used to just make music that way, just trying to sample stuff and bring it in to the MPC, make some stuff, record it onto his 8-track tape recorder. And that's how he started. And
so he's he totally supports sampling music.
Yeah.
And that's where he came from. That's where a lot of his influence came from. And he obviously respects that a lot.
Yeah.
Although in his early days, he kind of moved from that and decided that I want to make music without samples. I want to create it how they created it.
Yeah.
Literally the same exact way with the same equipment that they used back in the day. Literally some of the literal same equipment.
Yeah.
And he built a studio along those lines.
Yeah.
And from that point, he's known for, and he takes pride in creating stuff, fully analog and real instrumentation with real artists, specifically not sampling anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like there's like many things I've heard him talk about, the reasoning for all of that.
Right.
So from his own perspective of making music, like I say, he was doing the sampling thing. And then he started listening to the source material, like the original records that a lot of the other groups that he was really into, Tribe Called Quest, Wu-Tang Clan, were sampling from. And he listened to that, and he was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And I think his ear went from being inspired by hip hop to listening to where hip hop came from, and being like, "Oh, that's."
Well, that's what all these prominent artists are drawing their influence from. Like, let's just go straight to that zone and create in that area.
Yeah, and he said like he said it hit him more than the hip hop he was listening to, and he also said that he stopped listening to hip hop around like 1997 because he felt that I think that was also around the time where things were going from analog to digital. And even the early hip hop stuff was done analog sampling,
right,
or old machines onto tape, and then released as records. But then around like the early 90s is when things were shifting, technology was getting better, and he said that the hip hop kind of, hip hop was supposed to be a subculture, an underground, and he said that that's what he really liked about groups like Tribe Called Quest, because they were getting mainstream success, but they were still musically creating interesting sounds and using samples from really interesting groups from back in like the funk days, and stuff like that.
60s, 70s.
Yeah. And so, and he said like hip hop for him kind of went into two directions, and like the rap stuff kind of took its own life form. And that's where he said he sort of started to not really sort of be so interested in like the rap superstars and that whole thing. He was like more drawn to like the origins of early hip hop and the music and what they were sampling, and then going back and checking out these things. And so long story short, he realized that he didn't want to sample anymore, and he wanted to be able to like make music from scratch with real instruments.
I think that's super cool, and I super support that, and I don't have a problem with the idea of sampling.
Yeah.
Like it's obviously
we've talked about it a lot actually in previous episodes.
Right,
like
yeah.
Avalanches, DJ Shadow, even Tori and Moi as well.
Yeah, totally. And that's great. It's certainly an art form in itself. But for me personally, there is something about creating a bass line just from your head and recording it and putting it together and making a cool sound when it's all together.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I really like that. So I respect him for making that decision, because it's certainly harder to do. He's not using Pro Tools. He's not using a computer. He's doing it exactly the way they did it in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
And literally just doing it the same way.
Yeah, and that, I think that was like the other part of his inspiration as well, is he would listen to these old records and he'd hear a sample or something that could be a sample. And then once he'd heard that, like whatever it was, like it's a guitar riff sort of thing, in his mind before that phrase had finished in the song, he was already imagining where it could go, you know?
Right.
So he was hearing a part and then imagining where it could go. And then he heard where the track did actually go and he was disappointed because he was like, oh, okay. And so it was like, and then he said it was at that point when he started feeling that way, he realized like maybe he should be creating music because he's hearing ideas and seeing where they could go, not hearing it happening in the music he was listening to, even though heavily inspired by it, sort of thing. And so I think that was a very pivotal moment for him in deciding to pick up instruments and sort of do that, create samples and see where it could go, the evolution of it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
High level of respect for this guy to do something that's arguably more difficult, or at least tedious,
Yeah.
as far as studio time goes, and having to organize real people to come in and record stuff,
Yeah.
as opposed to working on a computer and sampling anything from online and building it that way.
Yeah.
Again, it's just two different worlds.
Yeah.
But he chose to go this one route.
Yeah.
I think it's super cool. You know, to each their own.
Yeah. Well, and like, so yeah, the analog thing is partly his own, where he's coming from sonically, what he likes to hear. But also he said that, you know, when the advent of early digital technology was coming around, you know, there were these like digital ways of recording music, and he was like, oh wow, you don't need to buy tapes anymore. Great. So he said he went to a Guitar Center, he took his Porter Studio 8-track thing in there, and he swapped it out and for a Fostex hard drive digital recorder kind of thing. That's what he called it was. And he took that home and he started making music with it, and then he was making music of it, and then he like listened back to the recordings and he was like, it's like what's going on here? He thought he was doing something wrong, so he like, you know, tried to re-record a few things and stuff like that, and it was like still not sounding right. It's like, I don't get it, like, and it was too crisp, it was too digital, like all the soul of the recording had been sucked out of it because it was like pristine sounding. And that's what he realized, and he was like, so he went back to the Guitar Center and returned the machine he bought
And got his back.
And,
That's awesome.
And then from that point on, he's moved on from the multi-track cassette tapes to like the like what's now eventually I think they call it a 2-inch tape kind of thing. 16 tracks sort of stuff. And yeah, for him, it's all about the sonic quality, and it's kind of like the parallel for this is like movies as well. Like going from like filming on actual movie stock to like the HD cameras and digital cameras that they use now.
Yeah.
Like you can see that like a lot of the modern movies that you see, especially some of those Netflix ones, where they're like everything else about seems right. Like as a period film or whatever, like they got the lighting right, they got the makeup right. Everything's right, but there's just something missing, and it's that quality of the image. Like,
right,
you know,
the real film,
and the grain and the grittiness.
Yeah, it gives it a little bit more of a different depth.
Yeah,
a different warmer feel.
Yeah,
and same in audio.
Yeah,
he can hear that. You can hear when it's like a real person playing, real people in a room playing together. It's a little bit of a different vibe, and it's sometimes difficult to hear if you're not super well versed with movies and audio and digital as opposed to analog. Yeah. But the more you look into it, the more obvious it is. Yeah. And today, you know, still to today, 2020, it's an ongoing conversation and kind of debate within the movie world and the audio world.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's all good, to each their own. Like I said, it's just different modes of working towards the same goal.
Unfortunately, though, I feel like it's more of a debate in the film world than it is in the music world. I feel like in the film world, like it's been about 50-50, like shooting on traditional film versus digital, whereas music has gone all digital, like for a very long time, and like recording music on tapes is like something that's very rare. Adrian Younge obviously does it and embraces it. I know that Jack White does it as well this way.
Does he?
Yeah, he doesn't like to use computers. He likes to record it all on tape as well.
Sounds like Jack White to me.
Yeah, but a lot of musicians, are not doing it. A lot of musicians use all the computers, and sometimes bounce things down onto tape to get that sound or whatever.
So there's many different routes, pathways you can go using both.
Yeah.
So,
But I will say though, I do. That was the one thing that really jolted me in making music, going from the transition of tape to computer. Was like I actually really hated seeing the music. Like I really don't like seeing a computer monitor with the waves.
Right.
Because then I feel like you're just playing Tetris and you're not listening to the music.
Yeah, it's too visual and you're not as much using your ears.
You're like trying to see where the bars line up and where things should cut in instead of actually listening to it. Like it's very distracting. Yeah, it's totally distracting for me.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah. Either way is there's no wrong way.
No, there's no wrong way.
Is the cool thing.
I mean, good music is music, and however you approach it is good. And and specifically for this episode, Adrian Younge has chosen to banish all computers and all modern technology from his studio. Banished. No computers, and it's all tape, and it's all old school microphones, old school gear, and real instruments.
That's cool.
And one last thing I want to say about this, because this is a really heavy part of his sound, I think.
No, totally. It's very important.
As he was saying about also the decision to be analog like this as well, is he said it's more human. Mm-hmm. There's no machine between him playing what he's playing and you hearing it. There's no machines involved. It's all organic. It's all live, and there are mistakes in there, but the mistakes are part of it, and that's interesting as well because someone like King Cruel, who we talked about, he uses computers and all that, but he's embracing the human aspect in a different way by leaving his imperfections in his tracks, I think.
So still trying to incorporate that human.
Yeah. So like you say, like there's no wrong way or right way.
Yeah.
I think it's just all, for Adrian, the analog studio world is part of his sound, his aesthetic, his approach, how he wants to be heard and what he wants to create.
Yeah. If that's what you're inspired by, go that route. Yeah. If it's easier for you to conceptualize and build these ideas, then get a computer and do it. Yeah. If you feel that energy and you want to use analog and you want to get an MPC and a 4-track, do it. Yeah. It's all good.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's all fun. You're going to learn something new along the way, either way. So it's all a journey. It's all part of the process. Yeah. So, I mean, I respect him for doing it this way though, because I don't know anybody who really does that. Yeah. I don't think there's a lot of studios out there today that don't have computers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, for what that is.
I mean, he must have a laptop to check his email at least, though.
He gets home to go on Facebook and stuff, of course.
He just doesn't use it for music making, but yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he's inspired by music. He's getting his law degree at the American College of Law. He started to learn all his instruments by himself so he can play them by himself to create this analog aesthetic and be able to record it. So I guess the first thing that he recorded was the Venice Dawn EP, and that came out in the year 2000. I don't know. I listened to that. I mean, all his stuff is really good. It's all a little bit different. It's pretty eclectic. Yeah. But it's it's jazzy. I guess he made it. He made it kind of for an imaginary movie. Yeah. He made it with the thought as if it was going to be a soundtrack for a movie that didn't exist, but that was the idea behind it.
And inspired by a lot of Italian movie soundtracks, is what you said.
Yeah.
That sonic world came to be from that inspiration sort of thing. Yeah.
Totally. So, I mean, Venice Dawn, he composed everything himself.
Yeah. And he only released it on CD, 1,000 copies in 2000. And then that was it. He didn't release anything until 2009. We have another artist here that spent a decade.
Yeah.
Between things. Yeah.
And as far as I know, the Venice Dawn EP is not on Spotify, for example.
Yeah, it's not anywhere. There's I've managed to find a couple of uploads on YouTube of things. The first track actually we played on the show tonight, 1969 Organ, was a track that was on that very first release. He and he released it on another sort of compilation album a few years later. That's how we played it today. But
right, and I mean, I was having trouble finding when some of this stuff came out because he had the EP, but then it's not on Spotify. But he eventually, in 2009, re-released a project called Venice Dawn, something about April.
So I think the interesting thing is that he created Venice Dawn with that inspiration, the movie idea sort of thing, and being inspired specifically by Italian film soundtracks. And then he revisited that years later after. So his next release after that actually was the movie soundtrack for Black Dynamite.
That came out in 2008.
Yeah, and so after that came out, which he actually also produced original music for.
Well, yeah, we should talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Black Dynamite?
Yeah, but then he sort of came back to I think it was like kind of a sonic world that he realized that he wanted to extend, and that was his sound, and that type of music, like in general, like
So he was definitely on that kind of movie soundtrack.
Yeah, even
vibe.
Even before actually doing soundtracks, he was making his own.
Yeah. So he made that EP. Then I guess he was in college. He was working as a professor and stuff, doing stuff, still creating everything. And then, so I mean, Black Dynamite. It's a movie. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the 50 greatest comedies.
Oh, really?
I can
see that.
On I don't know what list or something, but I'll have to find a source on that. But yeah, it's like a homage to blaxploitation movies of the 70s. Yeah, so blaxploitation
recently,
it's a fun word.
Blaxploitation.
But I mean, I guess that's the whole thing. There are exploitation films.
Yeah.
You can look that up, and it's kind of a thing. And back, I don't know. I guess they still do them today. I don't know, but it's. I
think it's just called porn now. Maybe.
Yeah. Specifically, blaxploitation is
a genre.
It's a genre, exploitation of black people with regard to stereotypes.
Yeah.
Of roles in movies.
Yeah.
And I guess it's exploitation because they're using it for a purpose to explain something.
Yeah, I don't know like where the name really came from, but there are a lot of these movies out of the 70s. James Brown did a really great soundtrack to this film called Black Caesar, and original soundtrack he did to that, which I think also was a heavy influence for Adrian Younge.
Cool.
Stuff. Also, Curtis Mayfield did one for I forget the name. I think it was called. Well, the lead song on that was Pusher Man. I'm not sure if I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head, but Curtis Mayfield also being an influence for all this sort of stuff that Adrian Younge does, kind of thing. Yeah,
totally. So that was a success, great movie.
Yeah,
still
which he also edited
and scored.
Yeah,
I mean that's what we said already, but he scored and edited it. So I mean, I don't know why he got the editing job. Like,
he said because at a certain point in time, Adrian Younge was directing, editing his own documentaries about hip hop culture and dance music.
Okay, that's where I lack my knowledge.
Yeah, and then he met some people that were involved with the Black Dynamite project, and they were like, "Yeah, well, you've done film stuff. Do you want to edit this movie?" I think it was Michael Jai White, the lead guy in that movie.
Okay,
called him up and was like, "Do you want to edit it?" And he was like, "Okay,
sure."
So he physically edited the film that you see, that you watch, and also composed the soundtrack, which is insane. And he's also a fucking entertainment law attorney. I mean, this guy is just going on all cylinders, crazy good shit.
I mean, he's starting out of the gate pretty strong.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants to do, teaching himself his own instruments, taking himself to college, becoming a professor, comes out with this EP, scores and edits Black Dynamite. Yeah. And so he's kind of off. People are starting to know who he is. Yeah. He's kind of building his name.
Yeah, and it was the Black Dynamite soundtrack that really blew him up in sort of the industry.
It's kind of his inaugural release for a lot of people, I guess.
Yeah, in the eyes of the public as well, kind of thing. Because I don't think I've seen the film. Have you seen the film?
I think I might have a long time ago, but
I feel like that way as well. Yeah.
Without knowing any of this information, so it wasn't as intriguing to me.
Yeah, I feel like I might have seen it, but like, the music like really took a life of its own because it wasn't, it sounded. I mean, we can play a little bit of that actually.
Yeah,
Give
no,
some
that would be
context
awesome.
for
Let's,
people,
let's
yeah.
get into it a little bit because it sounds like he's obviously trying to make it sound like it's from the 70s.
Yeah,
Where this movie is based in that time period, I think.
it totally is. Yeah, this one is. There's so many great tracks on this. I'm gonna play this one. Cleaning up the streets.
Let's clean it up, bro.
Yeah.
Black Dynamite and his crew are gonna do what they have to do. I'm cleaning up the streets. Every pusher and hustler in town is gonna mow them all down. Cleaning up the streets. Now the mob and the politicians can get together. But mess with Dynamite, it's gonna be stormy weather. Sell drugs, make that bleed. It's gonna wag you off the scene because it's cleaning up the street. Said it's cleaning up the street. Oh, cleaning up the street. Raphael's pulling the job. Dynamite is bugging the mob. Cleaning up the street. Monroe James is the promised spectre. 3 points just stole the ledger. Cleaning up the street. Now this big time drug dealer is flying high. Dynamite. Thank you, superstar. 3 points just blew apart. Cleaning up the street. Cleaning up the street. Yeah. Cleaning up the street.
Yeah. I mean, shit.
It sounds just like it's coming. It sounds like old music, like
Yeah.
it's from 40 years ago.
Yeah, from all of his analog recording techniques and all the way down to the performance, everything. Yeah, it's like, it's a killer. It's a dynamite sound.
Yeah, it is. It sounds good though. It sounds fun. It sounds live.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like you're listening to a band play.
Yeah,
From that time period where the movie's taking place.
Yeah.
So, he's creating this cool aesthetic, this cool world,
yeah,
to help people fall into the visual aspect of the creation, the movie. So I think he's good at looking at that whole kind of round picture of what are we trying to experience.
yeah.
We don't need Pro Tools for this.
Exactly.
In
yeah.
fact, we do not want Pro Tools for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of his aesthetic toolkit. His toolkit as a musician is his paintbrush.
Yeah.
The instrumentation and the way of capturing it and recording it is part of his arsenal of creating music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he gained a lot of momentum from this.
Yeah.
People know who he is.
Yeah.
So then, that came out in 2008, 2009. He came out with Venice Dawn.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing. He kind of recreated that Venice Dawn EP into I think he re-recorded everything, or did he use some tracks from the original?
So he didn't. None of the tracks on this album have the same names, at least, as the tracks on Venice Dawn. He called it something about April, but it was 2012 actually. Yeah, something about April was what he came up with after
2012.
Yeah, after Black Dynamite, he came up with something about April.
In 2012?
Yeah. I think. Well, at least on Spotify. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I have it as 2009.
It could be. Yeah.
But and that's his next project anyway, which was basically whether he used some tracks from before or renamed them, whatever, he expanded on it.
Yeah.
And
he was gaining so much momentum at that time that this album, something about April, was only 3 months old, only been released for 3 months, and Jay-Z had it sampled. Timbaland and J-Rock, his producers, sampled it for a Magna Carta release for Jay-Z.
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail. Yeah, was it Magna Carta, Holy Grail was the album?
I think that's the full thing, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so he's already like
That's massive.
He's
That's-
creating this like old school shit, and then like hip hop producers from today are like, whoa, let's do something on that.
He hit the nail on the head. I think that's like the epitome of what he wanted.
Yeah.
Like I think he specifically wanted, like, I want to create things that the hip hop artists of today are influenced by.
Yeah,
and I think he had the intention while he was making it, like, I want these guys to sample this.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going around asking people like, hey, Jay-Z, sample this.
No, yeah.
You know, they heard what he did and they're like,
Yeah.
that's good. There's a lot of good hooks there. There's a lot of good breaks in here.
Yeah.
We can use this. And it just kind of flowed together nicely.
Yeah, he said what Adrian says about his style is like he is wanting to create like he's recreating the old stuff that he was interested in from 68 to 73, but with today's hip hop producer sensibilities. Mm-hmm. So he's using like not the technology, but the outlook and the ideology of piecing together the music from today's hip hop producers upon using like that old school material,
right,
sort of thing.
So it's almost like he's making these banks like, hey, yo, here's a bunch of stuff that I hope you guys want to use because this is what I'm trying to make, stuff that's influenced by.
So instead of like those old tracks where they used to like, they had this killer sample, which was like one phrase, and then they'd go off and do a chorus and do some trumpety things and blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like he's taken the essence of what he wants and he's like playing it like kind of in a loopy style,
right,
sort of thing. But in that old school way. Yeah.
And not to get it wrong, these songs off Venice Dawn, they're like, you can listen to this album on its own and appreciate it for what the songs are individually. Yeah. And it's good music. Yeah. You can get into it. It's jammable. It's super good. It's not just a bank of loops, you know? Yeah. It's fully fledged songs created by real people in a room.
And as a way to illustrate this, and also doubling up on another restroom break on Roots to Groove, because I'm sorry, I thought I need to keep going all the time.
That's good.
This is track Sirens I want to play, and this is the track that they got sampled for Jay-Z's song. I think Picasso Baby is the track that Jay-Z did, but it was based on this, which had only been out for 3 months before they sampled it, and it sounds super old. But
let's jam it.
Yeah. There you go. And he played every instrument on that. Crazy shit.
It's impressive. I mean, this guy's on drums. He's on bass. He's on.
Yeah.
I think there's a mellotron in there.
Yeah. There's lots of stuff going on there.
So just like truly embracing. I'm gonna do it exactly how they did it back in the day,
Yeah.
to the T. Literally the same equipment,
Yeah.
the same style, the same
Yeah.
kind of studio. You know.
And that was the other thing he said about the doing this is that he wanted to imagine himself going back in time and being there when these bands were creating this type of music, and he was like trying to see like what equipment were they using, what instruments were they using, how they were composing and arranging the tracks, and even what audiences they were playing for. Mm-hmm. Because he said this was like for this type of music, it was a big sort of time for these artists, and they were not only creating this music, but they were finding audiences, and they were doing well, and they were finding momentum within that time period of doing that stuff. And so he wanted to like be like creating that, going back and sort of creating a dialogue and then bring it back, like a time traveler in a way.
No, it is. It's totally, again, like he says himself, he's looking back to move forward. And like he's like, I'm going to do it how they did it in the 70s with the same equipment, but I want Jay-Z and Timbaland to sample this and make something new out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
cool stuff. Yeah. I mean, after that, I know on Spotify that was Venice Dawn. Something About April was 2012 on Spotify at least.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what I have wrong here, but in 2013 came out with The Delphonics.
Yeah.
So what was interesting to me, he's working with all these people, but the way he releases his albums is he always kind of says, Adrian Younge presents, here's what I'm presenting. So this one's...
Yeah, which seems a bit misleading because you think it's like, is it a mix album? Is it a cover album?
Yeah, you just make a Spotify playlist and release it as an album.
Yeah, what's going on here? But I think it's all original material, right? And
influenced I think he's basically saying, I produced this. Yeah. I made this project. I want you to come work on it. And here's what I want to happen. Yeah. But you're playing the drums. You're doing the singing. Yeah. You're playing the organ or guitar or whatever. Yeah. And I'm kind of organizing this. But it's you guys. Yeah. So Delphonics... acclaimed artist band. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with them? I don't know them like super well, but
I think
they're pretty well known.
I came across a vinyl record of theirs in some store in Seattle, and I snapped it up because I recognized the name. And I think the reason I recognized the name is because Quentin Tarantino used Delphonics tracks on the soundtracks of some of his films. I think Jackie Brown.
That sounds about right. I mean, he's the same kind of guy who wants to kind of do things the way they wanted to do them. Yeah. Old school wise, using real film.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do it the way they did it years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of cool tracks on this. Again, it's pretty jazzy. Mm. I don't know. He has a lot of material. I tried to listen to as much as I could.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. There's like so much material out there that he's done. He's been extremely prolific since 2008, with Black Dynamite. Ever since then, he's just been on a massive and crazy pace.
Totally
making tracks, making albums.
Yeah, Adrian Younge Presents Delphonics came out in 2013. So he got to work with William Hart of the Delphonics.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like he brought them in. He didn't know who he was at the beginning. I guess how they got hooked up, they met through Twitter. And Adrian said something on Twitter like, who likes the Delphonics, or do you like this band? Like, which band is better, Delphonics or some other band? I can't remember. And somebody who knew William Hart was like, hey, I know William Hart. Here's his contact, whatever. And they got hooked up like that. And so...
Crazy. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So it's kind of cool to see this guy who's like, I'm analog. I'm doing things how they did it in the 60s.
Yeah.
I'm using Twitter. But I'm using Twitter to hook up with these same guys, like the literal artists who made things back in that day. Yeah. So kind of a cool dynamic. Yeah. I guess.
Well, that was something else to say actually about something about April. I think it was that album where he managed to get a guitarist called Dennis Coffey, I think, playing a lot of those tracks, and he was a session guitarist that worked for Motown in the 60s and played like on a bunch of hits for like Supremes and everything like that.
Nice.
And, yeah, so another kind of old school guy he managed to collaborate with back there. Yeah.
I that's what this guy wants. Like these are his like influences, like his idols, and he's like, I want to create something for them, and now he's getting to work with them.
Yeah,
and I mean that's amazing.
yeah.
Like I would love to work with my influences and stuff, and he's made it a reality.
Well, he's done it on both ends because he's done it with those like the Delphonics and this guy Dennis Coffey, but then he's also done it on the other end where with people like RZA, he's collaborated with, and the guy from Tribe Called Quest as well. Like, you know, these were groups he was listening to when he was younger, getting into hip hop, and now he's collaborating with them as well as guys from the stuff that these people sampled. Is crazy. Like,
Yeah. Ali Shaheed.
yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, sorry.
From Tribe.
Ali
Yeah.
Shaheed, yeah.
I mean, so just epic. I mean, this guy's like living his dream at this point. He's like, yes, this is cool.
Yeah.
I'm creating new things, being influenced by each other. Like, not creating things for them at this point, but working with them and being influenced by each other for this specific project.
Yeah.
And you know, he talks a lot about being built up by each other. Like, well, this Delphonics, you know, William Hart's like, he's at this level, and I want to bring my production up to this level. And then he's like, oh, well, we should do this for the vocals for this, and it keeps leveling up and being influenced by each other on the spot.
That's great. Yeah.
Just super fun, super great. Awesome people working together to create things that they couldn't create by themselves, I guess.
So they worked together for that whole album, the Delphonics album?
I think William Hart wrote most of the tracks. I think there's 14 tracks on it.
Yeah.
But Adrian Younge created the music for it.
Okay.
Or at least produced it.
Yeah.
You know, using different musicians and whatnot.
Yeah.
As far as I know. If anybody's listening knows more about that, I would love to hear it.
I kind of want to hear some stuff from that. Let's fire it up here in the old machine.
Yeah, please do, out of Delphonics 2013. You got a track you want to hear specifically?
If you have one, I don't.
I like the number one track, Stop and Look.
Okay, let's play this.
You've been looking for love.
Stop and look. And you will
I like the drums on that one.
Yeah, that's a really good track. Yeah. Well,
I thought I knew who did the drums on that one, but I can't remember.
It wasn't Adrian?
No, I think he had somebody cool on there. What does it say? Forget it. I don't know. I'll think about it later. Forget it.
Okay.
But anyway, cool track, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was really cool, yeah.
Like just chill, but it's got that kind of vibe to it. I don't know, like, stop and look. Like, I don't know, that little drum thing where he's like,
Yeah, he wants to create timeless music, is what he said before. He said he doesn't like trends, and he doesn't like following trends, and he doesn't want his music to follow trends either. He wants it to be timeless, is what he says. And yeah, you can feel that through all of these things that he composes. It's very, yeah, you could say old school. I think it's only old school because it's like we're used to hearing that sort of sound only from artists of that era, and now we're hearing it new.
I think it's cool. The older you get, the more like the 70s isn't that far away.
Yeah, not really. Yeah.
Time kind of goes faster as you're getting older.
Yeah.
And like when I was a kid, I was like, the 70s?
Yeah.
That might as well have been 400 years ago. But
Yeah.
now I see it like that wasn't really that long ago.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing to see the progression.
Yeah.
And how it is timeless. And that's the reason why artists today are still sampling stuff from that time period.
Yeah.
Which is why he's drawing all this inspiration to create stuff that sounds like it's from that time period, because it is timeless and it's still influential today. It's still inspirational, and you get a lot of energy from that.
Well, that's the thing. Like you, as musicians, we're inspired from different eras of music and different times of music, and it's a lot of you have a lot of different groups that are doing a lot of different things, and inspired from different things. Like I said, but even if you think about someone like Tame Impala, for example. He has a vintage sort of sound to what he does.
Mm-hmm. Even though he's using synths and modern sounding kind of aesthetics.
But he's another similar artist, right? Because he locks himself up in a room with this gear and creates all the music himself.
Right.
In a similar way to Adrian, using a lot of sort of old school techniques.
Totally.
Because he's influenced by a lot of that older sort of sounding stuff as well. So. Especially for Tame Impala, I think it's probably a little bit more influence from that old sort of rock, 70s rock sound kind of thing.
It's pretty interesting in the big scheme of things, in the history of the world, from the 50s to the 2050s. This is all taking place basically right now. It's very essentially a short time period in the whole history of the universe.
Yeah.
So this is all kind of just like
happening right now.
60s psychedelia, 70s funk, it's still kind of happening right now, and everyone's still trying to figure it out, which is why people today are looking back to that time period that's not that long ago.
And it's interesting as well, because if you listen to someone like Adrian Younge, you wouldn't know about his references if you didn't know about, like, by listening to him, you're entering a new world.
Right.
Of like other things that you can
And I
check
think
out.
I remember him saying something specifically about that. He doesn't want to create like songs or music. He wants to create worlds. And I love that. I think he specifically said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful spot to be coming from to make cool music.
Yeah.
I think that, that's taking it to the max to next level, not just I need drums, I need a bass, I made a song. He's like, I want people to fall into this world. And I listen to his stuff and I'm like, this is modern.
Yeah.
This came out 5 years ago. I mean, this came out 2013.
Yeah. Yeah, he said that that I think he was asked about like his audience or who he's making music for kind of thing. And he said that he's kind of making music for people that are appreciators of music and have already kind of explored a lot of things and kind of have a higher standard of sort of, he said highbrow kind of art in a way, sort of thing. he also said that he realizes that sounds a bit pretentious, sort of thing.
I was going to say it sounds almost pretentious, but it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a humble place.
Yeah.
And this guy's not just being pretentious. Like he's, back to how we said it a million times. Like he's using analog equipment. He's doing it the hard way.
Yeah.
He's not taking any easy ways out.
No.
And he's working with these people who he's influenced by, and taking a lot of time to create this stuff. And he's a hard worker, and he's not taking the easy way out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I got nothing pretentious about this guy.
Yeah, no.
On the side, he's super stylish, and he wears some cool clothes.
He does. I want to find out who his tailor is, because I want to get some suits made and stuff like that.
I think I saw a video, and he gets stuff wherever he travels.
Oh, really?
Like he says he's always in the studio, so he doesn't have a lot of time to shop and just go out looking for stuff when he's in LA.
Yeah.
But when he's on tour or something, doing something with somebody else in New York, he'll have a little extra time to go to the shop down the road and see if there's some cool vintage stuff he can buy.
Well, he's got a good eye then, because he dresses super stylish.
Yeah, I think he's pretty into Ralph Lauren.
Okay.
They make a lot of cool
Yeah.
stuff that he's into. I guess they were pretty big back in the day. So again, he's kind of looking back to create his modern style.
I see. Yeah.
So I mean, he's totally enveloped in this kind of looking back to move forward kind of way.
Yeah, nostalgia and everything.
And other artists have done that, like Daft Punk with Random Access Memories. Kind of, they had that same kind of perspective. Like let's create music that was made like this before, with this kind of modern lens, and it's going to sound new.
Yeah.
And of course, they killed it with Random Access Memories.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these artists, like them and like Adrian, like they're really capturing so well that sound from what they're influenced by. It sounds legit to me. Like
That's what I hear.
like you say, Daft Punk as well. Like, I think they really captured in that Random Access Memories that disco sort of 70s sound.
Again, bringing in the artists who developed these sounds, like Nile Rodgers.
Yeah.
With that cool style of guitar and
Yeah.
the energy that they bring to the table in the recording booth.
Yeah, but there's still something new about it, and I think it's just something really magical about being able to reference old stuff, bring it into what you're doing now,
Right.
But look upon it from today's perspective, sort of thing.
Yeah, bring it through that modern lens.
Yeah.
Totally.
Super great. And the other thing Adrian said about the way he creates music as well, two things. Like, one, he said is he only wants to make music that inspires other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he says it's great when people come up to him after a show or whatever, and it's like, I really love your music. Like,
Yeah.
But he said it's even better when someone says, like, that's really good. That inspired me to go check out some of these artists, or inspired me to create something. Like,
Just through this research, I've been inspired and been learning a lot about all these artists that I didn't know, or I recognized one of their songs but didn't know where it came from.
Yeah.
Or know a lot of samples that artists like Jay-Z is using still today.
Yeah.
Huge hip hop artists and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then the other thing he said was he's making the music for the audience in his head, which I thought was a really interesting concept. So basically, like, his outlook is that whenever he's in the studio creating something, he's got his own filter, his own outlook. Like, is it cool to the audience in his head?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and sort of filtering it by that. Because he said he sort of looked at the careers of other big artists or other artists that have kind of fallen off and done weird shit and not really continued what the sound that they're originally creating. And he said without fail, it's usually been because they lost their way, and they usually lost their way because of the fame that they had created for themselves, and
kind of distorts.
Yeah, and instead of like listening to themselves, they were like listening to what's hot right now, or what are people doing right now,
and putting it through like the what do people want to hear lens.
Yeah, and trying to do that. And he said, he's not trying. He's always just trying to look to him. I know it's kind of a weird way of saying it. This is not the way he said it, but this is the way I interpret it. It's,
paraphrase.
Kind of, I think he's looking to himself to be the inspiration. Like, he already knows that he's creating good music in the way that he wants to create it, and then I think he's sort of thinking about how he can evolve that, instead of like sitting back and be like, oh, I made all this success, people like this shit, I'm gonna release more of this shit, or
I can make some more money if I do something like this.
yeah, it's like he's more like kind of just trying to,
he holds himself
like, here was the last thing I did, and like, here, how can I improve upon the last thing I did?
Yeah.
Like,
He holds himself to a high standard.
yeah,
Ever evolving.
yeah.
So, let's move on. 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
He came out with Adrian Younge Presents There Is Only Now.
Right.
And we don't have to go super deep into all this stuff because I wasn't able to listen to all these tracks, but this one's another good one. And it has, he's working with Ali Shaheed Muhammad again.
Yeah.
William Hart's on this one as well. Snoop Dogg is featured on here. Souls of Mischief. Who else is on here? I thought there was somebody else I wanted to say. I don't know, but he's working with Souls of Mischief, and there's some other features on it, and it's some more good music.
Yeah.
You have anything to say about that?
I don't. I guess because he's had such a massive catalog,
we're never gonna get to all of these songs or all these tracks.
Like the albums that stand out for me are the one he did here with Ghostface Killer.
The album he created with Ghostface?
Yeah, Reasons to Die.
Yeah, well, let's move up to that.
We'll just sort of about like that one, and then he also did an electronic album called The Electronic Void. Like, I feel like these are sort of like pillars for me. Like, my pillars for Adrian Younge music are like, obviously his very first release, which if you can hear, I don't know if anyone can hear that. So I guess his first official release on Spotify is Black Dynamite. His first own official release is Something About April. And then I would say that Delphonics album is actually really good. I didn't really come across that, but I would say,
well, in 2016 came out with The Electronic Void, and that's basically all him again.
Yeah, Reasons to Die, Electronic Void, and then what he's doing now is like the pillars, and then explore everything in between.
So let me just go for the audience. We got 2013 Adrian Younge Presents The Delphonics. 2014 he works on Adrian Younge Presents There's Only Now with Souls of Mischief. Also 2014 There Is Only Now. I guess it's mostly remixes from that previous album. Then 2015, he comes out with an album called Los Angeles, and he's working with mostly Linear Labs, who I think we can talk about it later, but he ended up naming his studio off that name, Linear Labs. I don't know if there's a connection or something.
I think it's a label or a company that he created.
Right.
Linear Labs.
So maybe that's the first thing he released under that. But again, he's working with, I don't know, Lauren Oden, Ali Shaheed, blah, blah, blah. So then 2015, Adrian Younge Presents 12 Reasons to Die 2. And that's where he's working with, Ghostface Killer again, Raekwon, RZA. 2016, Adrian Younge Presents Something About April 2. So that's all extended off of that first Something About April, and it's all Adrian Younge, I think.
Yeah.
As far as I know. Then we get 2016 also, The Electronic Void.
Yeah.
And so, boom, another pillar for me.
Yeah.
If you're gonna listen to, this guy has a lot of albums.
Yeah.
I would listen to like Something About April. Electronic Void is one I would definitely pop into.
I think because it's like a different direction for him.
He speaks. It's called Electronic Void. He's using more electronic stuff, more synthy, more psychedelic, more kind of deeply odd and weird.
Even some old school drum machines, I think, he's using in that, that album.
Yeah. So kind of like again, looking back to look forward, he's using these kind of older school electronic stuff, not new school modern 2020 electronic stuff.
Yeah.
But super cool, dynamic, weird album. I don't know. It draws me in a lot.
Yeah.
The album. The cover's, black and red. So it's kind of, I don't know, poignant. Red is a strong color. I don't know what I'm talking about. But like
let's play a track of it.
Yeah.
A lot of it was so yeah, that album is it even an album? I think there's only like 4 or 5 tracks. Might be
Electronic voice. It's fat.
Okay.
Well, there's a bunch of instrumentals at the end, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's like 10 tracks, and then there's instrumental stuff after that, and it makes it 20 tracks. So
yeah. So it's like it's a strange album because it almost like feels like it's kind of
it's a cool album.
It's like weird. It's almost like in a way it feels like a soundtrack as well. In a way from like kind of some weird 70s sci-fi movie or something like that.
No, it's almost like a Daft Punk Tron soundtrack.
Tron, yeah, it's that sort of thing.
It's kind of like that, but Adrian Younge style.
Yeah, and they're all not as sort of not catchy or groovy. That they're all a bit sort of glitchy. I think
they're all kind of deep cut.
Yeah, and
like you're in a void. You're in there. You're in a valley. Like it's deep. It's black. It's red.
Yeah.
It's dark.
So I picked out one track which is kind of probably the most sort of I don't want to say accessible, but like more sort of groovy sort of track.
Totally.
Versus the more
I know you'll pick a good one, Jay. Give it to me.
Black Noise.
Give it to me.
Here we go. That's probably like one of the only tracks from that album that kind of has live-ish drums on it.
It's sick.
Sort of yeah.
If anybody's listening to this and you're more into like electronic or more modern kind of things, this is where I would start.
Yeah.
It's great. It's all like that. It's super cool.
Yeah.
It's like still kind of got that groovy 60s, 70s kind of influence, but using more synthy kind of electronic-y sounds. I mean, super cool. Super cool album. I like that one. I'm going to listen to that one again for sure.
Yeah.
Probably more than I'll listen to any of his other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's got so much stuff out there. You can really sort of pick and choose what world you want to dive into. Mm-hmm. Like I say, I also want to talk about the Luke Cage thing a little bit as well, which was a Marvel TV show. Well, TV as in Netflix, I think, is who did it. And it's interesting how that came about because he said he Ali, what's his name? Ali Shaheed
Muhammad.
Yeah, he I think the director or the producer from Luke Cage contacted them both separately and said, "Oh, I'd like you both to like sort of create some music for the show. And Adrian said it was kind of funny because they were already working on stuff together. And,
Really?
And the guy didn't know that, and he'd like contacted them both separately.
Synchronicities.
And he said like they had already like been making a bunch of tracks together, and so they teamed up. And then he said they had various meetings. They had like meetings with the people from Marvel, and I think when they shot the show, they had some sort of placeholder music from other artists like Curtis Mayfield and stuff like that. And he said that he sort of convinced them that it was like, no, I don't think you should use any of this music from any of these other people. It's like I want to create a brand new soundtrack entirely.
Took charge.
Yeah, and you only use this. He didn't say it in this way. So
Yeah.
but I think the way he was coming at it was from a creative standpoint, saying it would be too sort of disjointed to do that, to just have some of his stuff as incidental music and then like play like a hit from Curtis Mayfield sort of thing. Instead, like he wanted to create a cohesive soundtrack for the show, and to the point of even creating like a sonic world for each character of the show,
Right.
So he says certain characters would just be like Rhodes and drums, another character would be like flutes, another character would be like drums and bass sort of thing.
I like that a lot. That's what I see when I'm making music. I kind of feel it like that kind of visual stereo imaginary world, and the different instruments are kind of different characters and they're bringing different stuff to the table.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I visualize stuff. So I relate to that, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah. And so he was able to sort of really get them on board with that vision. And then that's what ended up happening. And he scored the entire soundtrack for the first season and the second season, I think.
From stuff from Electronic Void?
No, just brand new.
Okay,
new music.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Was that released as an album or anything?
I think there is some Luke Cage soundtracks on Spotify for it that you can listen to. I'm not sure, but but even just watching the show, like you can, like he even said like the music is a character, and it is a character in that show. I unfortunately didn't watch all of it. I watched like the first sort of half of the first season. I need to go read back and watch it, I think.
Come on.
But
Finish what you started.
exactly. But it was that was really cool. And something else he said about that in general as well was, I think he was asked like, what advice would you give to sort of young artists or young people coming up? And he really said that you just have to really truly believe in yourself, and that notion and execute on the notion of just doing it, So if you really believe that you want to do something, then do it and execute on that.
I think
Yeah.
Adrian is an awesome example of manifesting what you want in the world.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to do it this way, analog, the hardest way possible.
Yeah.
The most difficult way. And I'm going to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
And he just did it and it was successful. And now he's working with the people who he's influenced by.
Yeah.
Who he never thought to work with. I mean, he's always wanted to, I'm sure. We all want to work with our idols and our influences, but most of us don't get that chance.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he just did it.
Yeah.
And created his own opportunities.
Yeah.
Which led him to this.
Yeah.
You could say somebody's lucky, but luck is about creating your own opportunities.
Yeah.
You just create the opportunities for things to happen. Mm-hmm. That's luck.
Yeah.
Create your own luck.
Exactly.
That's what I see.
No, and I truly, I'm on board with that whole vision as well. It's like you have to really completely believe in what you're doing, have conviction in what you're doing, and that was the other thing that, on a kind of separate track of what we're kind of talking about, but on a sort of practical business level, I think that's kind of what helped him to sort of convince people at Marvel, for example, about what he wanted to do for the soundtrack. It was like he was saying that, if you really believe in what you're doing and you curate your influences and your perspectives and you have a really strong viewpoint about stuff, then I think you can really sort of put that into your work and really communicate that in your vision of what you want to do, as opposed to just like not knowing what you want to do and just being like, Yeah, sure, I'll score this. I don't know what I'm going to do. And,
Yeah.
like, he's coming into it with like a vision, like, and I think that's like really bold. And
Yeah.
Really, ballsy but really
Totally.
bold. Yeah. And, to have.
He doesn't know what he's going to get, and he's not expecting anything. But I'm going to do it this way, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's respectable. It's honorable.
Yeah.
He's doing it the way he wants it.
Yeah.
And he's manifesting what he's been able to create, and he's been prolific because of that.
Yeah. I mean, the power of your outlook, the power of your mind.
Yeah.
What you want to achieve, what you want to do. I mean, I believe that. I know you believe that. I believe that myself as well.
Yes.
And Adrian is someone that's just like exemplifying that and also communicating it. And in interviews, he's talked about this outlook as well and this perspective sort of thing. And
Yes, sir.
yeah, I'm like, this is how you do it. Like, I mean, yeah, there is luck in everything you do, I think, but like you say, you do create luck by, as a consequence of your own actions and outlook and perspectives and stuff like that.
He's putting in the work before. He's not saying, well, I don't get to work with Ali Shaheed Muhammad now. I'm just, whatever. He's like, I'm going to create this album. Yeah. And now these people want to work with him because he already created it.
Yeah.
Product of his own work, creating his own value.
Yeah.
Showing people that he cares about what he cares about, and other people respond to that with conviction.
Yeah.
He has conviction over what he's creating, and that's communicating.
Conviction, yeah.
That's a huge word that I've been thinking about a lot. Yeah.
I think that is, if you're thinking about it in a different way, it's conviction, also confidence, right? Like, if you if you go to anyone, like a professional kind of thing, and if you feel like that you don't know what they're doing, you're going to be a bit nervous, right?
Yeah. You're like, is this the right thing to do? Is this where I should be? Why am I here?
But if they have conviction and confidence in what they're doing, then you're going to be like, okay, you're not only just going to be like, yes, I think this is the right person, but you're also going to be like, oh, this guy's inspiring. I want to follow.
Right. Like having conviction puts a wall against all the other distractions around you. Mm-hmm. You have convictions like, this is what we're doing. You're a part of it or you're not.
Yeah.
But I'm going this way.
Yeah.
You can follow me or not.
Yeah.
If you don't have conviction, it's, well, yeah, that's kind of a good idea. That's a good idea too. I don't know what I'm doing. What's going to happen? You don't know.
And that was some of the examples he said. It's like, well, if you want to be a president of the United States, then drop what you're doing and focus on it. If you want to be an actor and be in movies, then drop what you're doing and focus on it. Mm-hmm. He said it in that way: drop what you're doing and focus on it.
Do it.
Like, and that's something that really resonated with me. It was like, drop what you're doing, drop and focus on it. Like, this really is that simple.
Simple enough.
Yeah,
it sounds simple.
Yeah.
Again, this guy's doing it the hard way, and that means a lot.
Yeah.
Not to say you have to do it the hard way. If you have Pro Tools, if you have Logic, if you have Audacity,
if you have the audacity, do you have the audacity?
Well, I mean, the DAW Audacity though.
I know. Rooster Groove's audio podcasts are edited on Audacity.
For real?
Yeah. So there you go.
And that's free as far as I know.
It's free. Yeah.
So everyone out there, use Audacity. I used that when I was in high school.
The only reason I use it is because it's quick and it's simple and it does one thing. Mm-hmm. Instead of opening anything else, I just like, it's not about it's being free. It's just like, it's a wave editor, and those things are hard to come by. Just open up the sound file, let me edit it, and let me save it. So
simple. Audacity knows what it is, and it's not trying to be anything it's not.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, moving on, after Electronic Void in 2016, he comes out with Adrian Younge Presents Black Dynamite original motion soundtrack. I guess he re-released it.
Okay.
I don't know about that in 2018. Yeah. That's cool. Released it again, whatever reason. Also, 2018 comes out with Adrian Younge Presents 12 Reasons to Die 1. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I was trying to figure out what was going on because he released 12 Reasons to Die 2 before.
There's an instrumental version as well. I picked up on vinyl the instrumental version of 12 Reasons to Die 2.
Really?
I think. Yeah. There's so many versions. There's like a 1 and a 2. I think I have 2 in version 2 in instrumental only.
And so this is where he's working with Ghostface Killah.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
RZA as well.
Right.
Raekwon, spin a little bit of that because this is kind of like this is hip hop, but Adrian Younge style.
Yeah, for real.
In the beginning, it's time for a new chapter. 12 more reasons to die after the laughter. It's relevant, the legacy lives on lavish. Ghostface killer, return of a savage. In the beginning, it's time for a new chapter. 12 more reasons to die after the laughter. It's relevant, the legacy lives on lavish. Ghostface killer, return of a savage. I ain't letting nothing live. Horrific, the ghost risen, stigmata scenery, ill visions of being Flemings. The taste of blood is up on my tongue. Walk through the valley of death. I seen the reaper waving with 2 snakes kissing. Can't believe they took my wife and my kids and straight lynched them. Word to God, once I get them, I got them. The moment's priceless. Decapitating heads like a journalist snatched by ISIS. I want revenge now. Spotted one of DeLuca's men at a restaurant. Eating spaghetti, drinking on Dom Perignon. With 2 other goons laughing, probably joking about the murder. I calmly approached them with the burner. When he realized the real live G was about to serve him, 60 pieces flew through his jaw, closing his curtains. Now it's total chaos, the people running for their lives. The other cocksuckers tried reaching for their hammers, but they were slow on their draw, so I blamed them. Taking their top off like a convertible drop burgundy phantom. They say the taste of revenge is sweet, but let me see. Prepare the table for a feast, take a seat, now let's eat. In the beginning, it's time for a new chapter. 12 more reasons to die after the laughter. It's relevant, the legacy lives on lavish. Ghostface killer, return of a savage. In the beginning, it's time for a new chapter. 12 more reasons to die after the laughter. It's relevant, the legacy lives on lavish. Ghostface killer, return of a savage. Beast mode, I'm resurrected. I hear the record spinning. Early 70s, New York kingpins. And I see street life, the only life I know. I see liberty, I see the motherfucking Verrazano. I see gangsters getting money, bitches acting funny. Stacks upon stacks and not one nigga bummy. Something ain't right, this ain't the gritty streets of Italy. We're Logan in my seat. Come on, son, you kidding me? Who's calling me? Who's looking for the killer with no face? Who summoned me here to this place? I need answers, behead chancellors. I'm a vigilante killer. No time for games and ain't no niggerilla. Let's talk business. You don't wanna leak your own blood. State your name before you get stretched like a rug.
As the Ghostface killer and the infamous gangster Lester Kane came face to face for the first time, we reflect on the violent events that forced their paths to cross. The black crime family led by Lester Kane has made a violent push for supremacy against the surviving members of the DeLuca clan, now residing in New York City. In attempts to thwart his adversary advances, Lou DeLuca, the head of the DeLuca clan, guns down members of the Kane syndicate, as well as Lester's wife and son. The war escalates. In one fatal night, Lester and his men rob one of the DeLuca clan social clubs, discovering 12 vinyl records hidden within a safe.
That is a story in itself. That whole album, if you listen to it through with the lyrics.
So there is a little bit of a story there, because I think 12 Reasons to Die was, by the same name, it was a comic book series,
okay,
I think.
Yeah.
So there was kind of a character there, and so it's kind of a concept album.
Yeah.
And I was trying to pull it up because I read about it before, but I pulled up this little paragraph. The album story is set in the 1960s Italy of a character named Ghostfaced Killer, Tony Starks, which isn't Tony Stark, which is Iron Man.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah,
different. This is Tony Stark's, not the same. So he's like an enforcer of the DeLuca crime family. So he's like a gangster.
Yeah.
Who's murdered by his former employee after striking out on his own and falling in love with the Kingpin's daughter. So I mean, I guess that's
the whole movie. Like he's
right.
very.
So it's a cinematic kind of idea concept.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of, again, he has. I feel like Adrian kind of goes with this
cinematic themes all the time.
Right, like
storylines.
He's just making these cool hip hop tracks, but it's kind of cinematically for a soundtrack for a movie, and he kind of seems to keep going back to that for whatever reason.
I wonder if he'll ever make a movie like a fictional movie
I feel like he's.
or something.
I feel like that's what he's building up to.
Because it's like it feels like he's doing it sonically,
Right.
but not visually. Not
Yeah.
yet. Yeah. And he does have a background in making films and doing stuff like that.
I mean, this guy's still young. I think we're going to see a lot of cool stuff from him in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
So stay
I think
tuned.
so. Stay tuned.
After.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what?
I was going to say, in the meanwhile, apologies to YouTube viewers. The cameras have died at this point.
Oh,
But it's okay. You can't see what I'm doing on camera right now.
you don't need to see our face.
You can't see.
That's not the content we
Can
want.
you see what I'm doing right now? No.
Oh, you don't want to see that, guys. You don't want to see that.
But we can keep going for a little bit longer. The
Okay.
audio is still running. So, yeah.
I mean, so yeah. I mean, let's get to the. Let's move on. 2018, Adrian Younge presents Voices of Gemma.
Okay.
Gemma. I don't think it's Gemma. I think I'm just guessing Gemma. Again, I think it's mostly Adrian Younge on this, and it's super cool. I like the album cover. It's like, I don't know, it's a guy and a girl or two ladies, but the lighting's really cool.
Yeah.
The image speaks to me.
Yeah.
It looks cool to me. I like it, and there's cool tracks on here. I don't know. I really like the album cover is what I'm saying. But again, more good music from Adrian.
Yeah.
And then moving on, 2019, Adrian Younge presents Jack Watterson. He's working with Jack Watterson with an album, same kind of style. Adrian's producing music for Jack Watterson,
Yeah.
kind of working together. And I didn't listen to a ton of stuff off this. Did you?
No. Like I say, he has so much stuff out. That,
No,
like,
there's no way. I mean,
I think like my first, I don't always say it's my first exposure to Adrian Younge, but it might have been, was this video, it was a black and white video produced by this website called nowness.com, which I think is actually owned by like some big fashion brand or something like that. But they made this really cool black and white film about him, and it was all about his studio and his analog process and how he does stuff like that. And
Cool.
I was super drawn and inspired by that, and I think that's where I first caught on to his sound, and then from there I explored various recordings of his sort of thing and albums. So yeah, I mean at this point, like there's just so much. Like I would just have a party and just spin every album of it. I would just spin his discography sort of thing.
give me an invite. I'm going to that party.
There you go. Yeah.
I would be down.
Yeah, and then because like right now, he's releasing he's just dropping album after album of this sort of session called Jazz is Dead, and it's
Right.
2020, and he's released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops, and each of these albums have like fucking 10 tracks or something within them.
Yeah, so it's kind of a series.
Yeah, and they're all like, there's a lot of other musicians on these recordings as well.
I think what he was doing, so these all started coming out in 2020.
Yeah.
I think it's a series he was developing, looking into the future.
Yeah.
And he started working with all these different artists. I think, so 2020 Jazz is Dead 001 is the first installment. And it's 8 tracks featuring different artists.
Right.
I think all of them he made with Ali Shaheed Muhammad. And then it's Adrian and Ali Shaheed working with a different artist on each track. And then the subsequent albums that are released are the same producers, Adrian and Ali Shaheed, but each album is featuring the artist the whole way through. So the first one is like a compilation of each artist, and then each subsequent release is a whole album featuring the producers with that whole artist all the way through.
Got it. So you got like Marcus Vale on one, Azimuth on another, Doug Kahn, and then
Roy Ayers,
Gary Bartz,
Doug Karn.
Spiritual Edition. Yeah, shit. And there's this one there's a Lauren Oden collaboration that also came out this year, My Heart, My Love. So like in 2020, oh my god, there's like so many things.
Yeah, I mean, he's popping stuff out. Like he probably released something tonight that it's not even It's about to be uploaded on the spot right now. Just refresh
like,
your browser.
every week. Yeah, it's like something new. No, actually, yeah, because I noticed this as well, because when I put the drop together, as I see all the new releases for the artists.
Yeah, check out the drop on signalradio.com. It's sick.
There you go, the drop. And yeah, on that show, my attempt is to play my curated selection of all the new releases that have come out within the time frame of the last show and the next show. And yeah, every week without fail, every time I'm checking my shit, Adrian Younge is constantly popping up with stuff.
There's something for everybody with Adrian Younge.
Yeah.
For sure. So, I mean, and that kind of, the latest thing is 2020 Doug Karn JID 005.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Jazz is Dead series.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of brings us up to the present. That's the latest thing he's released.
Yeah.
As far as I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm seeing
I get in a moment when we're ready to end, I'm going to play us out with the track called Jazz is Dead.
Dope.
Which I think is fitting because there's so many releases off of that, and there is a track actually called Jazz is Dead, so we'll play that. But yeah, I just want to say that Adrian Younge is just a very inspiring person. The other thing I want to say is, because he is an entertainment lawyer, the other thing he said is he's able to review all of his own contracts himself. Like, just fucking crazy.
Just doing all in-house.
Yeah.
All analog. I'll do all the legal stuff.
Yeah.
All the producing.
I didn't even know he was an attorney and lawyer. Actually, he said when he was in, like, that was his original thing. He said his original aspiration is when he was in college, is he wanted to be a politician and an attorney. And he said he went and he took political science, and in his first week he went to a rally, a DNC rally, and he said he went there and he said, like, this is whack.
It's like, nah, no.
He wanted to do that stuff to help his musicians. Actually, he didn't even say his community. He said to help musicians, to help music friends, which is very interesting. Like he took law in order to help music people. Again,
he's not taking the easy way out in any way.
No way.
He literally got a law degree.
He literally went and did that. That's probably why it took 10 years from his first release to everything else.
Yeah.
Because he did that. He just took the time out. He's like, I'm going to get a law degree.
And once it's been done, it's been like every year busting stuff out, multiple albums per year.
Yeah, like this guy knows what he's doing. And, so... Yeah, so the political stuff, like, I mean, who knows? Like, maybe he'll re-venture into that.
It's not too late. How old is this guy? He's barely like maybe 40, maybe?
Yeah, I think he's like 30s or something like that. It seems like. But
keep talking, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I mean, seeing that he has like a film background, has ventured into film, is doing these very like cinematic albums.
He's 42.
He's 42, and he has a law degree, and so he's a legit attorney, and he thought about like politics originally, and he hasn't done that yet. Like, this guy could end up going off on making movies and maybe becoming president.
I don't doubt it, and he would have my vote.
He would have my vote. Yeah. Well, shit.
I mean, that's all. That's all I got on this guy. You got anything else?
That's it. Let's wrap it up. Let's play out with Jazz is Dead, and just say that everything we just said about this guy is super inspiring. I would encourage everyone to check out some interviews with him.
It was very fun in researching this guy and seeing what he's all about.
Like, because not only is his music like legitimately like in my wheelhouse of shit that I love and everything like that, like, he's also got just a perspective about doing things and about life that is just, I think, should be very inspiring to a lot of people. Yeah. Especially a lot of people that might now be like losing their way or feeling lost because of COVID. Especially if you're creative and not sure what to do or what direction to go in and stuff like that. It's just heed the words of Adrian Younge, which is just really, truly believe in yourself first, and then execute on the ideas that you have.
Yeah.
And move forward and
I mean, he's a testament to create the value, and you will get the luck, quote unquote, that you want.
Yeah.
He's manifesting what he wants, and it seems to be working for him. And he's an inspiration to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about him until this research. It was your choice. It was a Jay Purcell choice.
There you go. Yeah.
For this episode, so I was super happy to put this guy into my world.
Nice. Yeah.
So I mean, if you guys have any other information or any corrections or anything that we got wrong, or any other cool stories about Adrian Younge, hit us up. What's the email you got?
Roots2grooves at roots2grooves@signalradio.com.
Boom.
SIGNL radio.com. And that's roots to, like, no number 2. Like, that's ROOTSTOGROOPS. That's how you spell
Boom.
it, right?
Yeah.
Roots2grooves@gmail.com. Not Gmail. Oh, motherfucker. Anyway.
Oh, Jay. Anyway, you guys got it.
You got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Roots2grooves@signalradio.com. Hit us up. Jay, play us out.
Yeah.
Adrian Younge, guys. This is Roots to Grooves. Thank you.
We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Roots to Grooves is a production of Signl Radio. For more music and independent culture, visit signalradio.com. That's SIGNL radio.com.